Oh, nice. Oh, hey, there we go. Hello, and welcome to the Adventurers Club of Los Angeles. I am Casey Shepard, member 1250, and I have an amazing guest tonight, or we do, I should say, as a club. Tamale Sepp.
Hi, guys. What's going on? How's it going? What? Yeah. All right.
Welcome to the club, Tamale.
Thank you.
It's so great to have you here.
So great to be here. I'm really stoked to be able to participate in this, and it's been really great to get to know some of our members and guests here tonight prior to our cool hangout sesh. So that's really exciting. So yeah, I'm really stoked to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I didn't know where to really start because, oh my gosh, Tamale, you are like, you live life on the edge. I'm like, everything, I'm like, okay, she skydives. Okay, she's a motorcyclist. You grind metal and parts of your body. You're a van lifer. But where I first met you was through Indy's great movie, Indy Saini, her amazing film, Women in the Front Seats. Can you talk about that a little bit? Like, how did you get, if people that don't know about that film, can you kind of talk about the film a little bit and how you got into motorcycles?
For sure. So Indy has this amazing production. This movie is amazing. It's a documentary about women who ride motorcycles. And I was really touched to be invited. Is that me?
Yeah, for Casey.
There you go.
Okay. I didn't move.
Take 2, 3, and 4. All right, we're doing this. Yeah, I think we just, let me switch out.
Continue on.
Yeah. All right, so what's really great is that Indy put together this motorcycle documentary, and how this started was that she wanted to go on this trip, and you know, she's got that adventurer's spirit, and so she was going to do this trip, and the way she did it, which now that I was talking with her about it, and I was kind of getting more of an understanding of how it began, because I jumped in when she was filming it, so you know, but I didn't know the real beginnings of it. So it was interesting to kind of get to know how it started, which was that she decided that she wanted to go on this motorcycle journey, and it wasn't going to be something that was structured, right? So it was just like, I'm going to start here, I'm going to end there, and what happens in the middle is what happens in the middle, and we're going to figure it out.
None of it planned out.
None of it planned out. So she was just going through the country, cold emailing people. This was in 2017, cold emailing people that she would like do a little research, like what's a women's motorcycle situation that's happening in this area. And then she would get in contact, and then whoever got back to her, she'd be like, awesome, you want to go for a ride for a little bit? And they'd be like, yeah. So that's how we met, was through my organization, Bikes and Mics, where every member has a voice. And she came, and oh my gosh, there were all these things that were in the way, but it all aligned. She was able to join up with us. We went on this ride. I think we scared the absolute crap out of her. We did not take it slow. We were trying to go on a highway, and it was just very scary. So she became a better rider immediately. Obviously, that's how that works. So we started riding together, and we did that. And then it was really great to kind of see how the movie shaped up. Because after she left us, she went from group to group to group, and then took this collection of experiences and created a documentary with it.
And a phenomenal documentary. And
so
what
great.
Amazing women. I'm like floored.
Yeah.
And seeing you on there, and I love your bike.
Oh, thank you.
You talk about that your bike is like a drag queen. Do you have a name of your bike?
So it's Elizabeth Salander, after Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, of course, naturally. That's when I got her, was back in 2010. So she's this giant Honda VTX, all black, very like matte black, with a giant eyelash that you find on like Beetles and Minis. Yeah, right, because she's a lady, okay. And she's great, she's really fun. It's a big bike, but you know, we can go fast, and I can turn it on a dime, so it's a good situation.
That's awesome. So how did you get into it?
So when I first started riding, this was back in like 2008, I was dating someone, and I was, much like Indy, Indy had talked about how she grew up riding bikes with guys, and also on the back of like boyfriends' bikes, right? So for me, I had ridden on the back of my partner's bike at the time, and I decided that I wanted to get my own bike. I was very like, I don't know, this is kind of, you know, her thing, I don't want to, and it ended up being like there was this moment in Tucson, Arizona. I was in this coffee shop, and I saw this gal ride a motorcycle, and this is how I remember it. It's not what happened, but it's how I remember it. She had like these heels, that was true. She had like the front of her head shaved and these giant dreads, and she was riding this motorcycle, and she pulled up, and I was just like, oh, I wanted to ask her about her bike so bad. So she came in, got some coffee, and we started talking about motorcycles. I was like, well, I just don't want to copy my ex's thing. You know, my ex's, I got it, that's me. My ex's vibe, I don't want to copy her thing. So this random stranger gave me permission and basically said, yeah, you just go get a bike and learn how to ride it. Go do that. And so I did. It was awesome. So yeah, that's how it started. And then, ever since then, it's just been like a thing I really love doing. It's really fun.
And it seems to be more than...
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It is on. It's on. There we go.
There it is.
It seems to be, though, more... This is total improv. Sorry, we sent emails, and I'm like, you know
Done.
what? We're going to just talk. We're going to, let it roll. We're in improv, deep in it. Right?
That's it.
But you do more than just enjoy it. You've started organizations and have been a big advocate in your community, like the LBT
the gays
community.
Yeah.
And beyond that, like you said, for everyone has a voice. How did that happen? Why? I mean,
yeah. So Women in the Front Seat really talks about the camaraderie that you find among women who are riding motorcycles together. And I've experienced that myself, and I've nurtured and fostered that myself in starting motorcycle organizations like Bikes and Mics. And really, what's there for me is that when you start getting a bunch of gals together, and you have that shared experience of being one of the few women in the area that's riding, it's just something so special because you understand it from a more from an authentic place of I'm not. When a bunch of dudes ride together, it's like, yeah, it's just, they're just, they're together, it's fine. But if you're a gal, it's like you are not allowed to have a mistake. If you dump your bike, well, see, women can't ride. If if you're trying to figure out how to maintain your motorcycle, it's like, well, see, you don't even know what you're doing. It's just, there's so much more to kind of fight through. And so when you have other gals that are riding, being able to create and participate in that camaraderie is just such a special thing. I think the documentary really goes into that as well, which is why I was so excited to be a part of it. And it's what one of the things that I love about riding. And it goes everywhere else too. Like all the other things I do have elements of that as well. Just like helping people find their place in environments where they wouldn't necessarily be. Like with skydiving, women who jump are only 11 to 13% of the overall skydiving community. So it's really important to me to help nurture and kind of like aggressively inclusive. Like, oh yeah, you're jumping, let's go. Like, and I'm like that because I was lucky enough to have other women who did the same thing. Where they're like, oh, you're here to jump? What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna do some solo jumps. Not anymore. Yoink, right? So, and then you feel like you're a part of something, and then you start looking forward to seeing those people at events. And then it just becomes part of your life. And then sometimes it takes over your whole life, and you end up living in a van, like some people can relate to.
I can totally relate to that. And I love that. First of all, thank you for doing all this because it's being a mountain biker, it's a little bit different, but it's the same way. Like, I mean, how many times have I somersaulted on my bike and it's like, oh, there she goes, she somersaults. And I'm like, we all do, I mean, if we're daring, right?
Right.
We're going to crash, right? Something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I love all that connection with sisterhood and just not even just sisterhood, just everyone else. And so when you are living in the van, so you're a skydiver, you're a motorcyclist, and then you're living in the van, but it's also because you're a comedian.
Yeah. Yeah.
So first, let's jump to comedy for a hot second.
Sure.
And then go back to the van, because, I mean, how do you create content for comedy? Is it all based within, or maybe how did you get into comedy?
So I grew up in a family where, it's kind of like learning a language. Mm-hmm. Like my family was very jokey. We would joke with each other all the time, and like at Thanksgiving, my dad's he passed, but he was a pretty stoic dude. But he was also very generous in spirit, and so at like Thanksgiving, we would joke around with each other to the extent that we wouldn't eat because we'd just be too busy joking with each other, and I mean, obviously it's not a problem these days, but it was really fun to just be a part of a family where you're always trying to like do little zingers towards each other. So when you grow up as kind of that as a way of communicating and being connected with people, it becomes very much like a part of who you are. So I moved to Chicago to do improv. I helped to start University of Arizona's first improv group, which was really fun. Yeah, with Tony Carnevale. It was very cool. We started the Charles Darwin Experience with a very cool cast of people. And then I went to Second City in Chicago, which now I've worked with them since 2004. So it was just, that's so cool to be a part of that and really being into improv and deciding like, I want to do this, and then getting there and being like, oh, this is super great. And then discovering all these other cool things, like the other things we were talking about, fire dancing and all this other stuff. But then finding stand-up and being like, okay, I love this. This is what I want to do, like for a living. I want to do this for a life. Like I love this. It's such an amazing, it has the capability of connecting people and being, getting underneath people's like barbed wire fences and like just making people laugh and connecting with them. And I just fell in love. And so I decided I wanted to do that. And so I started doing it in earnest in like 2013. And then I was like, you know what? I wasn't, you were talking earlier, or perhaps when you were being introduced about living in your van, right? And being like, oh, well, that's crazy that you want to do this thing where you're in a van, and then someone was like, maybe you should walk. And you're like, that's worse. I'm in. like, it sounds horrible. I kind of feel like when I moved to Chicago, it was so hard. And I just remember trying to like battle through that. And I just was like, man, I don't have the willingness to be that uncomfortable again as an adult who's not 23, who's made good adult money. I don't want to be like that again as not 23. And then, really realizing like, no, I love this. I'm willing to be. I have the willingness to be that uncomfortable again. Hopefully it won't be. So I did all the things I needed to do, right? Like I saved money and I had like $10,000. I put it aside and I bought my tour van, which I want to. Did you said you were in a Ford Transit Connect as well?
Yeah.
Was it like the one?
It's exactly. Well, mine was black. That's the only difference.
You had a black one?
I had a black one.
Oh,
I
wish
know.
I had a black one.
I know. I was stoked. I was so glad I didn't get a white. I mean, I love yours, but I'm glad I didn't have a white one.
Wow. Okay.
But you get it because you're on the road. You get that you want to not stand out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. For the first time in my life. Yeah.
But I love all this because everything that you've been talking about with comedy and then the uncomfortableness. I mean, everything you're speaking is adventure. It's what drives people to do adventure, and that's exactly. It's like, the comedy, the adventure. It's all willing to get uncomfortable for that.
Yeah.
So how uncomfortable has been living in a van?
I was really touched when Bill Morse shared about like you don't wait. You find something that what I heard him say was, you find something that you're passionate about, and then you freaking go do it. And like my heart was like, because I know what that takes. I know what it is to be like, yes, I like this, but all right, and like, it's kind of like when you're scrolling over an icon on a Mac, like it gets big and then you move beyond, it kind of shrinks down a little bit. That's kind of like my whole life, right? Like I'll get something, I'll be like, oh, I really like this. Okay, now I'm kind of done with this, I'll move on. But comedy's been the through line throughout all of it, right? So doing this whole thing with van life, it's a really tricky thing because you have to be willing to be uncomfortable, because living in a van, as you well know, is kind of a nightmare sometimes, honestly. It's like living in a purse on wheels. It's just so much work. It's so every little thing, the decision fatigue, like everything you want to do takes so much thought, and you have like, if you run out of shampoo, you usually don't remember until you're in the shower, and you're like, crud. Same goes for towels. Like I've been in a Planet Fitness shower before and been like, oh, I have no towels. This is amazing. And I guess I'll be drying off with dirty clothes. Super. So that kind of stuff is really annoying. It's like, that just sucks, So being uncomfortable, but like so many things, right? It is the accumulation of experience that makes it easier, right? Everything is hard when you first start. When you started to walk, you rolled around and banged into stuff for a good long while until you started to kind of turn over and crawl and all that other stuff. And now here we are, tripping downstairs with the greatest of ease. Like, yes.
You actually have a great post on Instagram for that when you have like your faces all bloody from like face planting from skydiving.
Score.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I love that because you do hit the nail on the head. It's like at first you do this and then you keep doing it and you keep doing it and then you can land.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love
Yeah,
that. It's
it clips
so good.
real quick in the front, but it's the full picture is like you can see like the dust and makeup and tear streaks through the dust, and there's just like my
got a little
piercings are all
blood,
bloody,
too.
and I was a mess. I had like rocks in my helmet and stuff. I straight up got drugged through the desert. But again, right? It's like you have the willingness. It's the willingness to be uncomfortable, and I think that's such an important thing to look at when we're talking about adventuring because, and especially with social media, holy smokes, man, social media makes things look so like carefree and fun and just like, oh my God, I'm just here by this beach. It's like, yeah. And then you drag all that sand inside your van and you've got sand in your van for 6 weeks when you're way far away from the ocean. So there's a lot of like, it's not comfortable. And when it gets uncomfortable, the important thing to remember is that that's part of the process, and don't quit now, right? Like now is not the time to quit. Yeah, babies bang themselves against, hopefully not too sharp of edges, but they do, and then they get a bruise, and then they eventually move on, right?
Yeah.
So when we're out there adventuring, you can't let that stuff stop you, and that's where it gets rough, right? Because, I was ready to tour. And I had saved this money, and I bought my van, which is a huge deal. I paid cash because I didn't want payments. Huge deal. That was really hard for me to do. Got it handled, ready to go, all these bookings, so excited to do this thing that I'd been putting off for 10 years. A month later, COVID hit. Ugh. I lost everything. And I went through this whole period of just, getting my ass handed to me all the time. It just sucked. And it was so uncomfortable. And it would have been the easy thing and probably could have felt a lot like the right thing to do to quit. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. I didn't come this far to only get this far. So that's like exciting because like if I was thinking it like back when I was in high school, like this conversation, that's bananas. That's so bananas. Like that would not. I was homeschooled, and my background's in agriculture. This is not what I envisioned for my future. Not at all.
But that's what's so exciting, right? It's like totally not at all what you expected. And, that's what I think you're speaking to. And hearing more and more, that's kind of like the comedy from it too. Like, does comedy help you with that unexpected and that uncomfortable and not knowing at all what's going to happen?
Oh yeah, it's a really great way to process rage when things are so not going your way. To be able to make fun of it, I think that's again going back to how unifying comedy can be. It's just something that like everyone's had a crappy moment where you're just like, come on! Like we've all had those moments. So especially in van life or in comedy or any of the things that I do or adventurers do, there's always this moment where you're like, you gotta be freaking kidding me. Come on, right? And so to push past that, comedy is so great for that kind of stuff because you can look at it, and Brass Chuckles, I actually teach a class called Dark Comedy. So it's dark comedy. Oh, so clever. And and we talk about things that people have gone through that are devastating, right? Like addiction, fertility issues, like really things that are very deeply heartfelt and have taken them on these very dark journeys internally and sometimes externally. I had one person who they are an organ transplant person. They collect those and pass them to the next person with the help of doctors. So, but they were talking about all that kind of stuff, and being able to make comedy out of that was really cathartic. And I think that that's a huge part of what comedy can do for people is offer that cathartic release,
Yeah. And that's going to help you too when you drop the bike, right?
Yeah. Yeah, happens. It does happen. It hasn't happened to me in a minute, but it does happen. And there, when you drop the bike or biff a landing or have a punchline that doesn't land in front of a lot of people. Not so bad when it's just like a few, but when it's a lot, you're like, dang it. It's always that bounce back. I think it's the culmination of developing that resistance, right? And that is also what is so great about having a community of people who have had shared experiences like that. When you're riding with a group of women or jumping with a group of women or, writing comedy and having it maybe go well, maybe not go well with a group of gals, there is something there that we know what it feels like. We know what it feels like to eat crap in front of an audience of people who are like, see, you shouldn't be doing that because you're a gal. It's like, oh, man. So it's not just that you failed, it's that you failed in front of other people who don't think that you should be doing this thing. That's hard. So it's good to have that camaraderie, that connection with other gals.
Yeah, I hear you, especially on a mic not working. I can relate to the camaraderie up here. But, and that's what I love. And that's something that Indy does touch on the film, too, is the fact of, are there situations where you haven't felt welcome or that you belonged because of your gender?
Yeah, no, not ever. I can't think of one. Wild. Yeah. I mean, it happens. It's also tricky too because and also I do want to say that I'm doing it in real time right now. Right? It was like, was it my gender or was I just not part of that group of people? Right? Was it my gender or was it like I just wasn't funny enough to get that opportunity? Or was it my gender or was I just not advanced enough to participate in that and they knew it and I didn't yet because I was just up and coming? That's the tricky part, right? Is like, I'm not sure. And, I've had those moments, but I've also been the person on the other side who can look back and go, you're not ready yet. And then have someone be hurt. And it's like, no, it's not because of that. It's because you're not ready yet. Yet. Right? Keep coming back. Let's do this, right? So that's why I like the coaching part, because it's like, yes, I want you to be ready. Let's go.
That's great. I love that point of view. Wow, that's great. So when you are coaching, so you're talking about that, because you do work with Second City, that you do comedy coaching, but you do more than that. What you coach with bikes and with skydiving as well.
Yeah. Yep. I have my coach rating for skydiving. I would love to get my MSF certification for motorcycles. I want to be able to teach motorcycles, how to ride motorcycles. I know Harley does women's classes specifically for gals that want to learn how to ride, which I think is really great. Because part of what makes riding motorcycles so fun is because it's kind of badass. Like you're out there being cool as heck, revving up a storm, like having a good time. So what's also part of that is when you have other people who are also like that, and some of them, not all, but too many, really derive sort of their sense of power out of making you feel small. Right? And if you're already not feeling like you really belong there, that could tip that fulcrum, it just can tip you over into skedaddling, and that's a shame. So, so I think it's really powerful to be able to, to be in that environment and nurture that, right? And to you got this, you got this. Like really helping people see themselves. That's why visibility is so important. Like this documentary, right? It's on Amazon. And so like when people watch it, it's so crazy to read the comments. I've had people who have rented it and purchased it and have talked to me about it. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it because it's the visibility issue. There are a lot of different styles of people and riders in that documentary that show that if whatever your interest is, like if you're into sports bikes, there's groups out there for you. If you're into cruisers, right? If you're someone who's, like whatever ethnicity, whatever you are, you have a group somewhere that wants you to come play, right? And if there isn't one, go make one, right? Like that's the whole point. Make your space and bring people into it. That's so fun. Hey, what?
Right?
Right?
Exactly.
This is so great. Love it. I love it.
So what is your type of riding? And what do you ride?
I prefer to stay on the bike. It's a really big thing for me. I'm really into it. So I ride a Honda VTX 1300. So it's a kind of a big girl bike. I personally, it's a cruiser. It's fun. My dogs ride with me, of course. So that's really, really fun. I enjoy doing, rides around. When I lived in Chicago, we would dress up. We'd have theme nights, and we'd dress up, and we'd go through the city looking like absolute spectacles. So much fun. And then, of course, like we are in the Pride Parade every year. We pick a theme and go full out. Mad Max was our first year. We're going to revisit that for our 10-year anniversary this coming June. But also, like, dirt bikes are super fun. I used to ride horses. It's a lot. It feels very similar. You just kind of like finding your balance and being able to get a little bit squirrely, but not letting it get away from you. I don't know. That's just so much fun. It's just, once you're good at, that's the other thing. Once you're good at it, you can diversify. It's like if you start with cruisers, once you get better at it, then you can explore dirt bikes or going on, adventures in other countries, again, with gals who ride and be able to see the world in a way that so many people never get to. That's so special.
Yeah.
Dang.
I'm ready. I want to go. Let's go.
I'm not kidding. I live in a van, bro. Like we will go. We will.
I love that because I don't ride. Like I said, I do mountain bike, but a dirt bike just like geeks me out.
Yeah.
And even like some of the women in the film, there was like some of the bikes. I'm like, I could just throw my backpack on and I could just go on a highway, not on the freeway. You've got more guts than I do. I can't even. I rode my bike in LA, and that was like about all I could do. You're like in it.
Well, LA is different. I don't know that I'd ride my motorcycle here. I drove here, and I was like, oh man, this is so scary. Oh my gosh.
I know it's scary just in a car, let alone a bike.
Holy smokes, man. Woof. Yeah, I get that. But like mountain biking is also that's when you're dirt biking, it is similar. It's just like you can get into trouble way faster, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a big dirt biker or a mountain biker.
Yeah.
I enjoy dirt biking, but I think the adventurous spirit is the thing that kind of is the through line, right?
Yeah.
Like any of these things. You said when you started living out of your van, which van do you have or did you have? Do you still have the same van?
No, I don't have the same van. So I had the Ford Transit Connect. I have the black one.
Right. Was it the same year or was it like a fancy one?
No, it was the same year. It's like 2010.
Oh man,
right?
yeah, mine's 11.
20,
Yeah.
And you have all the windows.
I did.
I had all the windows too, like the best. What? Oh no, I didn't have the back windows. The
back windows.
Yeah, I had the other windows though.
Those are the best for mooning people behind you. It's the best one. I've heard.
I'm sure. Do you have the funky locks on the side doors where you have to like ballerina through and unlock the side sliding doors?
So the way that I have mine set up, I think I do, but the way I have mine set up is that I've got a bed in there. So I converted, it truly is magnificent. Like there's a bed and then the dog kennels are under the bed and then all the like suitcases are stacked in the back. It is very well engineered. Not to try to brag, but it's really well thought out. Like because when you're a van lifer, you have to account for every inch of space in that thing to make it work. And especially if you're driving around with dogs and gear.
And you have
stuff.
4.
So, yeah, 4. Yeah.
That's insane. I had 1.
Oh my gosh.
You have 4.
Yeah.
I know, so cute. What are their names?
So Lucy Lou Magoo is the oldest one. I got her in 2016. Edgar Allan Woe, 2018. And then Obsidian or Obehave, I call him Obi, in 2020. He's definitely looks like 2020. He's the one in the middle. He's like, and then Oliver Wisp is the newest one. And this is the first year. This is the first time I've skipped adopting a dog, and it is so hard, y'all. But I am at my max right now. I'm going to continue the adventure, but I just have to like financially make sure I can swing. I would like to upgrade to a larger shuttle before I add more dogs to the mix. But,
yeah, because do they enjoy it? How are they?
They love it. Oh my gosh. So you'll see that the picture with all of them with their little floaties on, right?
Yeah.
So we also bring in the van an inflatable kayak.
Nice.
Her name is Selma Kayak, and so like everywhere we go, they get so many enrichment activities. They're so happy. So it's really fun, man. They live a very charmed life. They're very spoiled, but they should be because that's part of being a dog mom, right? Is you take that on. But what the cool thing is that when you have a dog like that, or dogs, and you're curating those moments for them, then by proxy, you also get to go have a good time, which is nice. That's really cool.
And they go on the motorcycles. Do they all go on the motorcycle? Do
All
you
four.
take all 4 on the
Yes.
motorcycle?
Yeah.
How do you fit them on there?
Yeah. So if you look on the back, there are special. They're called pet palaces. Kuryakin makes them, and I have 2 pet palaces on the back. Obi sits on the front of me in a little baby Bjorn, and he puts his little paws in the gas tank. And then the baby is zip tied with a special dog backpack on the side, and he loves it. I mean, they see me reach for the gear bag and they lose their minds. They love it. They have little bedazzled doggles, naturally, that they wear. So it's a fun adventure. They love it. It's good stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and they're with their mama.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm very cool, so they love it. No. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, motorcycles are definitely something that I feel like people. It's so funny because when my motorcycle group drives through Chicago, we'll sometimes see like kids when we're in their pride parade. You see kids who see you, and it's like something clicks for them, right? And that's what visibility is. It's very important. Visibility is very important. So. Like when I see you and I got to hear more about your beginnings and how you got here 10 years, that's amazing. Hearing about your story, it's just like, man, like social media exists now. But when I was coming up, because I'm 73 years old, but when social media wasn't around, it was much harder to find that visibility. So it is very exciting to me to have people like you and other gals that I've met tonight that are kind of doing that, leading the way just by existing. You're just sheerly existing, doing your cool stuff, and people are watching and going, I think I could do that. I think I might be able to do that. That looks really fun. It's like, yeah, come on.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. But that's the way I felt when I looked at your social media. I'm just like, oh my gosh. Especially when I got to the grinder. I was a metalsmith for 15 years. And so when I saw your grinder on your vagina, I was like, oh my God.
My mom would be so proud.
Like, there's the picture right there. How you miss?
You don't.
Okay.
Very important. You don't do that. That's a bad news bear's itch.
And what about the sparks?
Yeah, they
hurt.
Yeah, they do. They're pokey. They
You
sting.
just get used to it? Because when you have this great video on Instagram where you just it was for a Pride event, right?
Yes, it was for, yep. It was for Women's Weekend. I was able to, that's it. I was able to go.
So great.
And yeah, a friend of mine, she joined and they joined and it was super fun. We were up there just, yeah.
And you guys aren't even looking. Sorry,
Nah, we don't
I shouldn't do.
A lot of my life is guesswork. We're just guessing. Just guessing. This is probably about right. Oh, give or take. Oh, I hope this works. Oh. So what was really funny about that video was that we were doing a Women's Weekend, and we were at the end of the show, and I produced the show, and I knew the time increments. Like I created a cushion, and we got to the end, and unfortunately, because of a noise ordinance, they had to take the sound of the music for the last act, and they had to turn the music way down. And I was like, crap, because it was Queen.
Queen, yeah.
Yeah, it was Queen. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need the music to be able to perform to. And I was like, guess what, guys? It's going to be a sing-along. So I got the whole crowd to sing the song. And oh my God, by the time the end where we were grinding, the crowd was screaming the lyrics. I don't even know if there was music playing at all, honestly. Like, it was so loud, and we were just grinding to it, and it was amazing. Amazing. I was homeschooled. I don't know. This is not what I would have expected. It's so funny to me.
And it goes from grinding to like fire eating. Like,
yeah.
How did you learn that?
I was left unsupervised. When I moved to Chicago to initially do improv, I got there and I started participating in a lot of different performance communities. And so I started doing, I started exploring fire, which is so interesting. like I started exploring fire performance, and back then there were 6 to 8 of us, and we would perform right next to Lake Michigan, and it was on like it's called the Full Moon Jam, which now is like a Chicago Parks sponsored event with, it's just like hundreds of people show up to this thing, and to know where the humble beginnings were and to see what that community has done to build it and bring other people in to watch, it's beautiful. And so, to have been there, that particular picture, if you can see where I'm going like this, I have a performance group called Tamale and Safety Third. And and I have all these people who are like fire performers, and they do grinding or opera or burlesque or drag or whatever. Just this crazy collection of this amazing collection of people who do all these things, and we come together. We actually practice in our living rooms remotely. So we'll set up like a Zoom meeting, and we'll do that a couple of times up until this gig, and then we'll in our living rooms. So we get together, and then usually either earlier on the day of the show or the night before, we practice it in each other's actual presence for the first time. And then we get to see what it really looks like with everybody participating. And it's just really cool to see it all come together like that. So that was a picture of one of those nights where we just had a sold out show, and I was able to bring in like fire performers and grinders and all kinds of things for a finale performance.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so fun.
What is that one? The one with is that part of that performance? Those fire fingers? It looks like.
Yeah. So we were in the Austin International Drag Show. Nice. So it's a giant drag performance festival, and Austin International Drag Festival. There we go. So my group, Tamale Safety Third, we flew out there and did an act there. It was super fun.
That's really cool.
Fire, and that's like fire dancing on the side. That's poi. So I love that picture so much because that picture looks how it feels.
Really?
Yeah, because you're in the middle and you're swinging essentially like a. Yeah, and that's a weird twist when that happens. Yeah. Right? Because it isn't comfortable. It is so uncomfortable, but also it's still really cool. And I don't know, there's a sense of accomplishment, right? Like, I know where everything is. It's all organized a certain way because I need to access things differently, wherever I'm going and whatever I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So it's like it's my emotional support van. Like everything in there is just like it's just weird because if you get used to it, you acclimate, it becomes normalized, right? Mm-hmm. Like crawling up onto your bed, and snuggling with all these dogs. It's so
the hot dog breath, all like in, because you're all sealed in, and you got that hot dog breath.
Yeah, you get that seal and all those little dog toots going, and you're just like, this is the best day, the best day of my life again. All right.
Becomes home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's gross, but it is true. It is very true.
I love it. It's so great. And, and you have the 3 vents too.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are amazing. And it is kind of tall, which is nice. Can you, I
can't stand up.
Okay.
Well, I wish. That is, you know what? Another benefit of doing this kind of lifestyle is that I will speak for you, I definitely have become so much more deeply grateful for everything that works.
Like water out of the faucet?
Like water? Holy crap. Hot? I'm sorry. What? Hot water? What? Like, it's so freaking exciting. And that's something because I think that it's very easy to get really used to when you're in an apartment. Because I've had that life and I've loved it. What with the convenience of like running water and like a dishwasher and like a laundry situation and a bed and a shower right there that you could just walk down the hallway to go shower, like all of that, right? Very normal. So when you're choosing to not do that for a while and you're like, I'm just going to I'm going to have the willingness to be uncomfortable. And then you have to like figure that out. It's a lot of decision fatigue, but again, it's like, I'm so grateful. Every meal I eat, man, it's like that scene in Fight Club. Remember the parking lot scene? Do you guys remember that? Right?
No.
Or he's like, what did you want to be? And he's like, a veterinarian. Well, tomorrow you're going to start looking into vet schools. And he's like, okay, right? Am I going off the rails? Probably.
No,
all right.
it's awesome.
But that's the thing is like all of a sudden you're like, yeah, I want to do this thing. I really appreciate every meal that I have. I really appreciate, I'm going to shower. Yes, I am. I'm going to make that happen and I love it. Is it cold water? Sucks a little bit. Still, just so great. It's a shower. This is awesome.
But it also, doesn't it help you in life when life throws you big curveballs?
Yeah.
It's like, whatever. It's like you've built this shield somehow out of the difficulty of adventuring, van life, comedy, whatever. And it's just like, boom, boom. It just like bounces off.
Yeah, it's resilience.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like resilience. When something goes wrong, I think one of the biggest benefits, and maybe you can relate to this from doing van life or motorcycle traveling or any kind of like living on a drop zone, one of the biggest things that you develop is that resilience. There's a solution here. I just have Everything is Figure Outable. That book, love that book. There are all these resources everywhere. People, social capital. You meet people similar, right? Where you're just like, oh yeah, well, this happened to me? Oh, I had that happen. Oh, well, what did you do? Oh, I did this. Oh, I'm gonna do that next time. You just like learn a lot, and there's just so much to be learned, and you start to realize like I can figure this out. This sucks, and I'm gonna figure it out. And I feel like everybody who does this stuff, that's like your whole lifestyle. It's just like, okay, well, and if you're falling to the ground at 120 miles an hour, yeah, the timeline is truncated. You got to figure it out a little more quickly, but you figure it out, right?
Well, and you guys are even going through hula hoops in the sky. Like, how do you time that out?
You adjust your fall rate, and then you just move forward when it's the right.
How do you adjust your fall rate?
I'm very rotund, so I fall quickly. So you have to get big. So you try to get a lot of surface area, right? So you put your face, your helmet, and your body, and then you try to get your torso all like. You try to make everything kind of like a wall of person as you fall, so you have more surface area. So you slow your rate a little bit. Yeah.
And so you do that, and then you dive through the.
If it's low, then you try to. If it's here, you try to slow your rate so you can kind of not float up because you're all falling down, but so that you can kind of get to the same height, and then you flatten out and you point your toes and you go zoop through the hoop. So if you watch that video on my Instagram, I did snag on my boobs. I did snag on my boobs, and I tumbled forward through the hoop. I went a little low.
But it's still impressive.
Thanks.
And how often do you
You
jump?
too can snag your boobs.
Well, the snag of the boobs, I don't think I could snag my boobs, but it's to go through that, and you guys like multiple times.
Yeah. It's usually like one person per hula. Like you have their two people. In this case, Steph and Timmy, amazing coaches. They are holding the hula hoop and then you all jump together with the intent of getting to that spot and then being able to.
Oh yeah,
to
there's
go
the
through.
hula hoop, and you're
Yeah,
hitting
there
the
it is,
boobs
yeah.
on the hula hoop.
Yeah,
right there.
that's the still. The video reveals more. Oh, this right here is something called a Mr. Potato Head jump. What's so fun about those jumps? I'm the pink one on the side, so I'm docked. I'm just like holding on. So what we do is we jump out. I already put my piece in, so I'm just hanging out to watch everybody. We all jump out. You have a piece of Mr. Potato Head in your left hand because your right hand is your pull hand, right? So your brain will fixate, and if you're holding a piece, your brain, and you go to pull your parachute, and you're like, I can't pull my parachute because I have this plastic piece in my hand, and I can't think to let it go so I can save my own life. So that's why you hold it in your left hand. So then when you get to the person and you hold them, the Mr. Potato Head, and you put the little nose or whatever on, and then you let go and you get back up and let someone else approach. So he ends up looking pretty gnarly at the end because there are a lot of different random pieces stuck on him, but he's in there. Yeah.
What's that video?
that was like, he came in like a wrecking ball. We were forming a round, and my friend, you're supposed to get to a certain level and then gently go into your spot, but in the moment, sometimes you just
a little bit faster.
Blend those together and just. We've all done it.
How long are you falling for?
So we usually jump out at about 13.5 or 14,000 feet, generally speaking. You fall for about a minute or so, about 60 seconds or so. And then I like to pull high, so I pull at 4,500 feet to give myself plenty of time to make any kind of choices I need to make. We also jump with AADs, so automatic activation devices, in the back of our rigs. It's a barometer, so if you get knocked out in free fall, what can happen is that it notices like, hey, you're still falling pretty fast, and you're past what I have it set right. If you're at 2,500 feet, which is like hard deck, that's your decision altitude. Like whatever's happening at 25. Like that's if you're basically if you're still falling and you've been knocked out, it'll pop your reserve for you. As a rule of thumb, for me, it's 2,500 feet. Whatever's going on with this parachute at 2,500 feet, I'm landing that. So I want to make all the great choices prior to that moment. And I did have a cutaway. It was on my 69th jump, and it was crazy because the parachute, I had been in this canopy course all weekend, so my arms were super tired, and we had the canopy was up and it was out, and I went to do my controllability checks, right? Check left, check right, and then do a full flare. And this side was very loose. There was a tension knot above the slider, so I couldn't see the issue, but I was looking at my altimeter, and it's 2,700 feet, and I'm like, oh, crap. 25's coming quick. Like, I got to make a choice here. So I was like, wow, it's time. This is the day. And I'm saying this out loud because I'm extra. I say stuff out loud. I was like, I've been training for this. Shout it out. And then I cut away, which if you've ever seen Die Hard and that scene at the end where Hans like falls off the building, that's exactly what it feels like. So it was like, cut, so I released my main and then went back into free fall and then pulled my reserve and popped it open and landed in a cornfield. That was really exciting. There was some construction happening next to the cornfield, and those guys did not know that I had landed in the cornfield. So I kind of landed, and then I just popped out like, hey. They were like, whoa.
Pops out.
That was fun.
Wow.
Alive.
I'm glad you were alive. Wow. That's an exciting story. Dang. So I guess we're going to go to some questions. If people have some questions in the audience for Tamale.
Ah.
I did a documentary about Bill here and the team digging up landmines. And friends of mine asked me a lot of stuff like, you were in minefields digging up. I didn't dig up landmines, but I was documenting it. Like, weren't you afraid? It's like, yes. And I wait for the next question. They're like, well, how do you do things that you're afraid of? It's like, well, I've ridden a motorcycle for nearly 50 years. And people say, in LA traffic, it's like the freeway, everybody's going the same direction on the freeway. It's the side streets that are dangerous. And it's And everybody in this room, I guarantee, has had this experience where they're telling some story about something adventurous, and the room got really quiet. And you're like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm a person who something that scares the crap out of people every day.
Yeah.
So aside from your quick compliment, your dog photos, your dogs look like they're about to drop a killer album.
Yeah, they do.
It's a great band photo. But the question with all that preface is, what scares you now?
Commitment. I'm scared. That's a great question. I also really appreciate, I want to go back for a second. You said, are you scared? Yes. So it's like, do it scared, right? Do it scared. Because I think a lot of people want to do things and then they're like, oh, well, I don't know. It's kind of scary. Yeah, it's still kind of scary. Do it scared. Do it scared. And then to answer your question, what scares me? Running out of time. Running out of time, man. We are not promised tomorrow, and especially the way some of us live our lives, like, we were really pushing the envelope, So I feel like that's something I want to get it all in before I go. I'm very familiar. There's mortality is a thing, and I want to get it in. I want to on my deathbed. Hopefully it's quick, but I want to be like, hell yeah, I did all that. Yes, and I got to bring other people and help them. Hell yeah.
Question.
Have you ever base jumped before?
Great question. No. So for those of you who don't know what base jumping is, it is an acronym. BASE it's an acronym for. And man, it's basically that you jump from a structure, right? So like a bridge or a windmill or something about, right? And base jumping. So funny. It's become quite the thing because it is many, many times it is a skydiver who just got bored. It's like skydivers who are like, oh God, this whole thing again? Which is wild to me because when I started jumping, I was like, oh, how could that ever happen? But I get how it happens because you people with thousands and thousands of jumps and they're just like, this is old hat. I'm ready for a new adventure, and now it's base jumping or wingsuiting, right? Like when you see wingsuiting, like those videos, it's very similar. Those areas have really expanded in the last few years because people are pushing the limits, right? Like the people that usually get hurt are because they're pushing the limits. They're the ones that are living on the very, very outer edge. Like, look, I do all this cool stuff, but in each of these endeavors, I'm still pretty like conservative in the way that I play. I very, very a calculated risk, right? The people who get really hurt or die are usually people who are at those outer edges, right? For me, at this time, base jumping is just not an interest of mine personally, but I have a lot of friends that do it, and it's interesting because base jumping school, they basically say, like, write a letter to everyone that loves you and tell them why this was more important to you than them. That's how they start it. Yeah. Wild.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask about your process for writing your stand-up comedy. And I guess I imagine you writing while you're in your head while you're riding on a motorcycle, but...
Nailed it.
But because you do so much action, and then how do you transmute action into art?
I love that question because you're right. That's exactly a lot of... It's usually on my motorcycle or in the shower, honestly. Like that's where the ideas will come up, right? It's usually something that I've experienced, a lived experience, right? Where the safety groups on Facebook, they say, you want to put masculine items on the dash of your car. I'm like, what's a masculine item? Oh, there's a punchline. There's a punchline. Here's a tag. Blah, blah, blah. It just... it oftentimes will come out, especially if you play with that in public, in front of people, the punchlines, the tags, they all come naturally because you're with people and you're kind of joking. It's that communication, it's that connection, right? So it bubbles up from that. And actually doing that bit as I've been traveling, crowd work with that bit is so fun because I've had people say the most unhinged crap to me. And I'm like, well, what do you guys do to stay safe out there? What do you do to stay safe? One gal I'll let you guess which state was like, hairspray. hairspray and a lighter. And I was like, I'm gonna write this down. Like, yeah, it was Florida. Big surprise. Big surprise.
Awesome. Well, thank you
Awesome.
so
Yeah,
much,
thank you so much
Tamale.
for
This was
having me.
fantastic.
Thank you. Casey, congratulations also. I know that that you're one of the first gals to interview, and I feel very honored that I got to share this experience with you. And I just want to say thank you to Indy for all the work you did for the documentary and connecting gals across the globe with your work. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
There it is. No audio.
Oh, I have so many